So I'm in a square here in Granada that hardly anyone knows, but it's a very nice spot with a beautiful view of the city. You can see the cathedral over there. There's also a very good restaurant called El Mirador del Tato here that I recommend, where I came here for the first time with my friend Pablo Jimenez, the excellent Granada guitarist. I want to talk about these city guitar makers today. Why so many guitar makers in Granada? Many people, I think, they wonder why. Today, Granada and its surrounding areas are home to, I think, I can say, a unique phenomenon in the history of guitar making. Over 50 high-quality guitars, I would say, 50 high-quality guitar makers work and live in this small region of southern Spain. Perhaps we could say that nowadays there are more guitar makers in Granada than in the rest of Spain. I don't know if I'm not being very accurate about it, but if not, I believe this comes close to what it is. So how did this come to be? What factors have contributed to such a situation here in our city? In 2014, I was commissioned to write the book Granada and the Traditional Guitar, precisely a book that talks about practically all the guitar makers of Granada, and that is available for purchase on our website, MaderaGuitarras.com. I really recommend. This is the second edition now, and it's a very interesting book. For this book, I interviewed every guitar maker in Granada, learning about their personal histories, influences, and construction methods. This experience taught me a great deal about the history of guitar making in Granada and the current situation. Reflecting on the book and the stories shared by both the older and younger guitar makers working here in my city, I reached, I think, a probable conclusion about why this phenomenon of Granada guitar maker exists. First, it's important to note that Granada has a centuries-old tradition of instrument making. As Granada guitar maker and historian and a very good friend of mine, Aaron Garcia, explains in one of the book's articles, records show the existence of string instrument makers in the city as early as the 16th century. Later, starting in the early 19th century, Granada experienced, let's say, a little bit of golden age of guitar making that has continued to the present day to what we have now here. Examples of historic guitars made in Granada include the one built by Granada guitar maker Rafael Vallejo between 1789 and 1792 for the Spanish king Carlos IV. This guitar is now in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. In the early 18th century, José Contreras, considered one of the most famous luthiers and important luthiers in Spanish history, was born in Granada. He crafted guitars, violins, and cellos of a really top quality. Granada also played a key role in the evolution of the guitar, with many innovations originating here. For example, Agustín Caro's 1803 guitar, as far as I know, and if that's not the case, please let me know, but as far as I know, was the earliest guitar maker known to feature a hole raised fingerboard above the soundboard in a guitar. I also heard it was the oldest Spanish guitar known with 6 single strings. Caro was also the first to include a modern bridge with a removable saddle. Another very important Granada guitar maker was José Pernas. Born in 1804, a follower of Agustín Caro, Pernas worked in a similar style. Pernas is considered for many especially significant as the first mentor of Antonio de Torres, the legendary builder born in Almería, city not far from Granada. I mean, maybe the most important guitar maker in history, or not maybe, just the most important guitar maker in history. Torres, as you probably know, is considered the father of the modern guitar as we know it today. Many stylistic elements of Torres' guitar can already be found in those of José Pernas, such as the three-lobed headstock design, the bridge with a removable saddle, larger body dimensions, the plantilla, the 12-fret neck-to-body joint, the use of 7 struts fan bracing, and parallel harmonic bars. Granada also saw around that period the rise of the first Granada families of guitar makers, such as the Ortegas, with Francisco, Juan, José, Rafael. These families set a tradition of passing knowledge and craftsmanship from one generation to the next. Today we still see this dynamic, for example, in families like the Marims, the Bellidos, the Diaz family, the Rayas family. Granada's tradition and significance in the history of the Spanish guitar are very strong, with an unbroken chain of guitar makers carrying this legacy from the past to the present day. However, in my opinion, and here in Granada, many people share this view. One figure, one person stands out above all others, a man held in the highest esteem by everyone in Granada, which this characteristic is also quite remarkable from him. Everybody loved him. Everybody loved him. His extraordinary humility and generosity have been instrumental in creating the vibrant guitar-making scene we see today. This man is Antonio Marim Monttero. Antonio Marim Monttero is perhaps, for many, the greatest guitar maker in Granada's history. It may be that among the many guitar makers who have lived and worked in the city, Marim Monttero is not your personal favorite guitar maker from here, despite his worldwide fame. But we can say that his openness, willingness to help anyone who was looking for his guidance, and extraordinary generosity, his influence in many other guitar makers have shaped the city's guitar making community and can be considered the most important guitar maker here. When I wrote the book, I asked many guitar makers how they started in the making of guitars, and it was quite impressive because, to my surprise, I found that many of them had begun in the same way. They had visited Antonio Marin's workshop when they were starting making guitars, and during their meetings they dared to ask him questions about construction. And Antonio, with unmatched generosity, shared all he could to help them. If they returned another day with more questions, Antonio's door was always open and his knowledge was freely given according to what they told me. Later, many of those whom Antonio helped went on to help others, and in this way the spirit continues to this day. As a result, many stayed in Granada. Many guitar makers decided to stay in Granada, a beautiful city with a rich history of guitar making and of classical and flamenco guitar and guitarists and a legendary master, Antonio Marin, who was willing to share everything he knew for free. I wonder, of course, how could they not stay? I'm not saying that if you come to Granada, you should expect everyone to help you and offer their time for whatever you need in your guitar making learning process. That's not the case. Many don't have the time, or they have a different personality, or many other reasons. But there has always been, in one way or another, a sense of respect, cordiality, and at times mutual support among many of the Granada guitar makers. Of course, that helps a lot for the high amount of guitar makers we have here nowadays. About Antonio Marin, one guitar maker told me that it's amazing, this person, that when he once asked Antonio how to perform a specific task, Antonio not only explained it in details to him, but also handed him the tool needed for the job, saying, like, bring it back when you are done. No? I'll say it again, Antonio Marin Montero's generosity, kindness, humility, simplicity towards life, as well as the gratitude he inspires, should forever be remembered here in our city. He stands as a guiding light and an example for us all, teaching us how to act with generosity and support our community. He showed us the importance of sharing, of helping each other as much as we can, because I think the success of one benefits everyone else and contributes to the recognition of the city and its tradition as a reference point today for high quality classical and flamenco guitars made by guitar makers who strive for getting the most beautiful and nuanced sound possible. The extraordinary consequences and benefits of such an attitude, I think, are evident in the vibrant guitar making tradition we see today in Granada. In fact, nowadays, the guitar makers and guitarists of the city meet on the first Tuesday of each month at a restaurant across from the Alhambra to spend a few hours together talking about guitars, playing and analyzing historical instruments, something so important for them, no? For their develop as a guitar makers. Even this month we had a barbecue all together in one of the home of one of the Granada guitars makers here. And in these monthly meetings, guitarists give feedback to the makers about their guitars, and makers exchange information with one another, or just at times we talk about whatever and we have fun together. The atmosphere at these meetings is very nice. I hope that from all this information you can deduce some of the main reasons why there are so many high-quality guitar makers working and living in the city of Granada today, though surely there are many more factors and people who have contributed significantly to making it so. What is true and is quite curious is that almost every month or two, or every 2 months, someone comes to me with news of a new person who has appeared in the city, living here and working, making guitars. As we say in a Spanish expression, they spring up like mushrooms. I say this, of course, in a friendly way about them, but it's a kind of almost mysterious to see how so many keep emerging over time, like a source that never stops flowing. Mira, es que estoy grabando un vídeo. Podéis estar quietecillo, quedaros aquí si queréis, pero sin